Stop. You're looking at the end of AI coding assistants. We have settled for an AI that helps us to type faster. But what if the AI could run the entire engineering workflow autonomously without you telling it what to do next? Sounds surprising, right? This is ZenFlow by Zencoder. It claims simple to transform a raw code base into production ready software, not by suggestion, not by any random stuff, but by orchestration and verified commitment. Well, this video is gonna be crazy because we are giving ZenFlow the full mission right now. The tasks include harden the authentication service, fix the flaws, writing test, and refactoring for maintainability and implementing of strict specs and running an autonomous review. This is the entire engineering workflow which we are gonna test on this ZenFlow, and it's not just the one step. And the file with which we are going to start is called app.py. So it's basically a basic Python authentication file service which you can see on the screen, and like a lot of code is written in a hurry. It's riddled with flaw, no input validation, zero error handling, and definitely no automated test. This is the messy code of an engineering tool which needs to fix. This is the exact interface which you will get after downloading. So we get three things here: new feature, fix the bug, and vibe coding. Now as you know, you all are friendly with the vibe coding, will go with the second option. That's the main thing here. Okay, now in order to test that option, what you have to do is you have to import your project here first. And quick note, ZenFlow is currently out for the Mac, but for all my Windows users, just you have to stay tuned, and the team is working on the Windows version. Okay, and also remember, you must import a git repository first. ZenFlow only works with a connected repository which allows it to manage those safe and verified commits. So the file which you are seeing is that exact Python file, the exact code which I showed you, and it's the imported git repository. So that's why I am able to just import my project in this, and as you can see, in the same way you can proceed further too. Let me explain what's happening here very clearly. This authentication service technically works, but it's fragile. Right now, it assumes the request body is always correct. It doesn't validate inputs, and it doesn't communicate errors properly. In the real systems, this is exactly how bugs slip into the production. Not because of the logic is complex, but because the edge cases are ignored. So basically what I have done here is I haven't told ZenFlow how to code anything. I have only described the outcome what I want. Proper validation, clear error handling, and correct HTTP behavior. ZenFlow now reads the entire project, understands what the service is supposed to do, and plans the fix on its own. This is very different from an editor assistant where I would manually decide what to change, where to change it, and how to test it. Here, ZenFlow is treating this like a real bug fix task, the same way a senior engineer would approach it. First, understand the intent and then make minimal safe changes. Now, just notice the result. The behavior hasn't changed. Valid credentials still work and invalid ones don't. But the service is not defensive. It won't crash on bad input. It communicates the errors properly. And this is the kind of improvement that doesn't show up in demos but matters hugely in the production. This next step is where ZenFlow really separates itself from typical coding tools. Writing code is only half of the job. The other half is proving that it works. Most tools can generate test code if you ask them, but generating tests is easy. What's hard is running them, detecting failures, and fixing issues automatically. Here, ZenFlow is exactly doing that. It's creating tests that cover both valid and invalid authentication cases, executing them, and verifying that the behavior matches expectations. If something fails, ZenFlow doesn't stop and ask me what to do. It fixes the problem itself and reruns the verification. Okay, Like it legit fix the problems itself and it reruns the verification. This is the main part, and this is what teams usually spend hours doing it manually, and Zenflow is literally doing it in just couple of minutes. At this point, we don't just believe the code works, we have automated proof. And that's a critical difference. The system only surfaces output once it passes the verification, which dramatically reduces the risk of shipping broken changes. Now let's talk about something which is most important and many of the teams delay. It is refactoring. Basically, refactoring means improving the structure and readability of code without changing what it actually does. And let's see how Zenflow handles this safely. Well, refactoring is dangerous because even small change can introduce subtle bugs. That's why developers often avoid it unless absolute necessary. In this task, I am asking Zenflow to improve the readability and structure without changing the functionality. This is not about adding features. This is about making the code easier to understand, maintain, and extend in the future. Zenflow already has context from previous tasks. It's know how what behavior must stay the same, and it uses verification to ensure nothing breaks. Well, you can check that the result is cleaner, more maintainable code with the same behavior. This is exactly the kind of work that improves long-term velocity but is often postponed because of risk. Well, Zenflow is the first tool that removes the. Up until now, we have improved the code a lot. But real engineering teams don't just rely on code, they rely on specifications. A spec defines what the system is allowed to do, what inputs are valid, and what outputs are expected, and how error should behave. Without a spec, project over time, and different developers make different assumptions and quality slowly decays. In this task, Zenflow is introducing an explicit specification and aligning the implementation to it. This is not free from prompting, this is discipline. Future work now has an anchor. Every change is checked against a shared understanding of how systems should behave. This is one of the biggest differences between hobby code and production systems. Zenflow treats specs as first class citizens, not afterthoughts. Now, at this stage, imagine you're about to ship this service. Normally, a senior engineer would review the entire project and absolutely ask, is this safe? Is this maintainable? And are there any obvious improvements? That's exactly what this task represents. Zenflow is reviewing the project end to end and suggesting improvements the way a senior engineer would not just line by line but holistically can check. And this goes beyond assistance. This is orchestration of real engineering judgment. And at this point, we have gone from a basic script to production ready backend service using structured workflow, verification, and autonomous review. That's the core idea behind Zenflow. Instead of babysitting prompts or managing dozens of small edits, Zenflow lets you describe outcomes and orchestrate real software works from task to the verified output. Well, now we are all done with the steps, and finally that last two steps you can carry on in the same way. And now you can see this single thing sums up the entire difference. On left side, this is the project before. We gave it to Zenflow, just one plain application app.py file. No structure, no tests, and no safety at all. But on the right, this is the same project after the Zenflow completed the workflow. You're not just looking at few lines of changed code, you're looking at fully engineered and verified project structure. Zenflow didn't just suggested a fix, it built the environment necessary to make that fix safe and maintainable. It created the dedicated test files and necessary configuration files, and it committed them to the repository only after the agent had run the full test suite and verified the outcome. This is the fundamental shift from an AI tool that assists with the code to a system that executes and verifies engineering tasks across your entire project scope. Now, to truly understand why ZenFlow is different from anything else on the market, from Copilot to Cursor to any other editor assistant, we have to look at the capabilities only ZenFlow demonstrated in this workflow. So, at very first in the task one, it was the end-to-end task orchestration. Copilot helped you to write a line of code, whereas ZenFlow runs an entire workflow. We told it to harden the authentication service, and it decided on the entire plan. Analyze the bug, write the code, run the test, and verify the commit. No other tool handle that multi-step, multi-file execution autonomously. And in the task 2, ZenFlow's core value was proven, which was a force verification and safety. It is not allowed to commit code that breaks the existing tests, right? It runs quality gates before giving you the final output. The green verified status is the single most important difference. It allowed teams to ship with confidence, knowing that AI generated changes won't cause any immediate regressions. And going with the task 4, it was like when we asked ZenFlow to implement the feature based on strict specification, it enforced that specification, and this is the critical for large streams. An editor assistant will just write code based on the context in the file, whereas ZenFlow forces the AI to follow the architectural rules you set, preventing code to drift and maintain discipline across the project. Well, the rest 2 tasks you can even carry on by yourself, and with the help of the vibe coding you can even tell him to document all your projects so that whenever you host it, it becomes easier for another person to examine each and everything so seamlessly. Well, the bottom line is this: if your goal is just to type code faster, use an assistant. But if your goal is to safely execute complex multi-step engineering tasks and upgrade your entire project quality, then ZenFlow is necessary next step in AI-driven software development. So what did we really prove today? We proved that the future of engineering AI is not about auto-completion, it's about autonomous completion. And ZenFlow is not just helping you code, it's orchestrating the entire workflow, verifying the outcome and committing safety, not just the code. If you want to move beyond being an assistant prompter to start being an engineer of workflows, the link is in the description.